Uh, what is the unique challenge for dog trainers facing when they're working with the households that have multi-species animals like dogs, cats, birds, small mammals?
Yeah, it's an interesting topic, and it's one that certainly generates a bit of worry, a little bit of anxiety, because like you said, it can be a tricky situation. If you don't know what you're doing and you just go, hey guys, meet your new roommate, that can be disastrous. It could go well, but it could also go disastrous. It could also be really bad. So the biggest thing to remember is, dogs have their own set of communication vocabulary. You know
Okay.
what I mean? They have dog language. And then, you have cats and other species that also have their own set of communication vocabulary. So, how a cat communicates with another cat, for instance, would be different than how a dog would communicate with another dog. So sometimes things get a little bit lost in translation there. Like a friendly approach from a dog could be misinterpreted as a very inappropriate approach by another animal. So when you have these differences, it's good to be aware that these animals, they communicate differently. So what this dog might be trying to say might be entirely different, perceived entirely different by this other animal. So if we keep that in mind, the thing that then helps us is we go, okay, we need to give them a little bit of time so they can adjust to each other, so they can just learn each other's language. Because not only do we have the species specific vocabulary, but we also have the individual itself. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because not every dog is the same, not every cat is the same. They have different personalities, so to speak. There are dogs that are more friendly than others. You have cats that are more friendly than others. You have cats that are a bit more
Absolutely.
bold, cats that are a bit more timid. So having an idea of what your animals are like, and even with other animals also, like I have a couple of ducks, very different personalities, different temperaments, one from the other. And so you could really narrow it down with just about any other species. They are individuals. You can have a bunch of chickens, they're individuals, they have their own specific temperament. So keeping all that in mind, we go, okay, if I have a very bold cat, for instance, and a very timid dog, this could be stressful for the dog. If I have a very bold dog and a very timid cat, this could be stressful for the cat. If I have a very friendly dog and a very friendly cat, it's probably going to go really well. You know what I mean? It's probably not gonna go too bad. So having an idea of what your animals, the animals that you have, having an idea of what they're like, I think is key. The other thing is, just like you did, not rushing the process. You know, knowing that, okay, this might take just more than one day. My approach is, with every animal, every introduction, my goal is not to necessarily have them meet, even dog to dog. Sometimes I have clients that go, I'm adopting a new dog, or I just bought this dog. How do I introduce it to my other dog? And what I'll tell them is, don't make the focus for them to like meet. What you want to make the focus is for them to just adapt to each other. Because once they adapt to each other, if that's the focus, then meeting will be like nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I can say we've got with our one foster we have at the house. Aside from the puppies, noticed that I mean, there is no engagement on us trying to get, okay, you two gotta,
Yeah.
y'all got to get along,
Yeah.
and we found no, that's just kind of,
It happens organically.
yeah,
Let it
so
happen
very
naturally.
organically.
Yeah. Yeah. That in my opinion is the best bet,
I would agree with
because
that.
I've seen dog introductions go bad, because people go, all right, let's have them meet. Well, what happens is if your goal is to have them meet, one might be ready to meet, the other one might not be ready.
Someone just might as well be there and just, at 3 seconds after the meet, yell, run.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So if you just make it like, hey, just get to know each other, get to, know each other's smells, get to know each other's behaviors. Then when the meeting happens, you'll notice it'll be like they've known each other their entire lives. That's what I've noticed. When they happen to meet, they're like, oh yeah, you're there. It's not like this big thing. They're like, wow, who are you? You know what I mean? So I noticed that is much, much better.
Okay. Are there specific training techniques you use to help dogs coexist peacefully with other animals, especially like cats or birds, which may have very different behaviors and instincts?
Yeah, the biggest thing is, again, I'm going to go back to exposure.
Okay.
Exposure, you notice like if you bring a dog around birds, and when we say birds, I know you and I, like us, we're talking about chickens, ducks,
yes.
turkeys. We're not talking about like parrots. Maybe people in the city were thinking that.
Yeah, that's true.
But like the ducks, the chickens, like they're typically they're there a lot more. Like they're on the ground, they're walking around, they're walking right up to the dog, right? So the best thing for me to recommend is to do exposure, because if you have a dog that has not been around a bunch of birds, you notice when they see them that close, all of a sudden their eyes just light up.
It's not good.
They're like, whoa, I've never seen so many birds this close. They're usually like way far away. I've never seen them this close. So that shock automatically makes things riskier, because now they want to investigate, they want to smell. They're very excited, and obviously excitability can be a bad ingredient when meeting another species. So that's what you'll notice a lot of times, and people automatically go, he's not good with birds. Well, he might not. It might not be that he's not good with birds. It might be that the dog has never seen so many birds up close. It might not even have seen a single bird that close, that reachable, that accessible. And so if you kind of expose him, meaning, you bring him in kind of away from it, and you have control of the dog physically, like on leash, right? And just let the dog know, look, they are there. We're just hanging out. You know what I mean? Or like put the chickens on one side of the fence, or the ducks on one side of the fence. Have the dog on the other side of the fence. Don't let the dog lose its mind, because some dogs will fence fight and they'll chase the fence and they'll wear themselves out. But just, let them kind of smell each other
So
that
like
way.
what you're talking about right there, we did that. We wouldn't let our dogs out back first of all, when our dogs would go out back, as you saw, the chickens were not free ranging. So they would go to the coop, they would smell through the little fence, and this was for months. And then eventually, there was a group that we let just start free ranging a little bit, and our dogs got out, and they could have cared less.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it.
Ollie, who would chase a squirrel or anything that's just out of the ordinary, like you said, just eyes get big. He didn't care. He didn't care. We've got that little sweetie hen that's in that one area. All the cats come in. The only thing that showed attention to that little bird this week was the puppies. And I realized, okay, yeah, that's a transition I got to work on.
I let them out of the area this morning. And both puppies, they couldn't decide if they wanted to chase the chickens or eat the donkey's poop. So we're gonna definitely have to transition them slower with the chickens.
Yeah. But we wanted them to make them as friendly as possible.
It's totally doable.
It is.
Totally doable.
And we didn't realize we did it with our dogs, because I had 4 to 5 dogs going out, and they don't care. They literally didn't care.
Yeah.
And they had ducks, they had roosters, they had hens.
Yeah.
It didn't matter.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's totally doable. I've seen it with dogs that I even thought, wow, I didn't think that was going to work that well with that dog, but it works out pretty well. So, give you an example too. One of my dogs, actually, all of my dogs, maybe with like one exception. I have 5 dogs. Um, yeah, 5 or 6. I lost count. But anyway, so all of my dogs, we have a cat, right? And every time we bring a new dog in, the first order of business was, I want to destroy that thing.
Yeah.
From the Chihuahua all the way to my oldest dog, right?
We've heard about the Chihuahua.
And then yeah, like eyes light up, and you're like, this cat is bigger than you. He'll kick your butt. But anyway, so then what we'll notice is when we take that approach of, hey, we'll just take your time. He's there. You're not gonna harm him. We're gonna prevent you from doing that. What I've noticed is this, something really interesting that I saw happen, a handful of times. When one of my dogs would see another cat, like like a stray that would wander into our property, he would lose it. He would go, oh my God, there's a cat, and go in full chase mode. But then the very next moment, he'd be fine with our cat. So it's not like the dog was like now fine with cats. Just what happened was he adapted to the individual temperament of our cat. So it was like part of the family, part of the pack, so to speak. And then another cat is just a cat. It's like they just see them differently. So that does happen. Dogs can, just like dog aggressive dogs can have dog friends. Just because you have a dog that doesn't like dogs, another common concern that sometimes people have is, well, my dog doesn't like dogs, I don't think I can ever have another dog. Well, your dog aggressive dog can be okay with another dog. You just have to slowly introduce them. And then what will happen is they'll just become, they'll become familiar with each other. And then now they can be fine with each other. The dog doesn't mean the dog is now fine with dogs. It's just that now this particular individual is fine. So yeah, dogs have the ability to go, these are my, these chickens, these ducks are part of my pack, part of my group. The other chickens, or maybe the other ducks that I see, or the other cats that I see, I don't know them, so maybe, they'll be fair game, so to speak.
Well, we've noticed, so about dogs and cats, we have our dogs and cats coexist, they don't fight.
Uh-huh.
I noticed a transition was that there was the barrier of our fence that goes from the carport into the backyard. We have barn cats. If the barn cats were on the other side of that fence, then the dogs won it. If the barn cat decided to come over the fence and step inside that other boundary,
Yeah.
oh, okay, no problem.
Yeah.
And then we have a dog who's mostly dog aggressive, but lately has been doing great with fosters. So you just never really know, but we slowly introduce her, and
Well, we go
she
with
does.
caution on that one.
Yeah, we do, because she's been fairly dog aggressive in the past, but lately she's been doing better. But we do slowly introduce, like you were saying.
Yeah.
But I can go take the trash out now, and my dog Ollie will follow me, and he can walk by 7 barn cats outside.
Yeah.
On the driveway, and they're cautious, they're aware of him,
Yeah.
but they don't get up and move now.
Yeah.
And he just trots by him, he looks at him and just keeps on moving.
Yeah.
On through. It's like this juice ain't worth the squeeze.
The number of times I've seen that happen, it's enough to convince you. Dogs can, any animal, I think, can go, all right, you're okay, you're familiar. So different species they can develop a friendship or bond. You see it with wild animals too. You see it like with some documentaries. You'll see species that would never hanging out together. So that does happen.
We've seen once or twice a year we'll end up seeing a cat show up into our carport to eat, where the barn cats eat. And okay, it's not ours. We don't know the cats.
Mhm.
We just like, oh, there's a new gray and white one. Oh, there's a new this one.
Yeah.
And we'll watch the breakdown between all the other barn cats there. There's some that are okay. They can be sitting right next to each other and pieces at hand. They can walk by another one, and it just I gotta swat you, man. You don't belong here.
You're not part of us.
You're not part of it, yeah. But then there's, and I can see two cats get along just fine, and then one swat the other one loves on the other one. It's just,
Yeah.
We've learned territory comes a little bit with this, and we've also learned introduction is huge.
Big time. And to address the fence thing that you were talking about with the cat, when the cat comes into the area that doesn't find, there's this thing called barrier frustration that dogs have. And which is one of the reasons why a lot of dogs fence fight.
Got you. Okay.
And it's not necessarily that, they want to tear the other animal on the other side of the fence, even with people. But sometimes the presence of a barrier alone arouses this, this sense of almost looks like rage with some. Sometimes it's just frustration. You can tell they're just frustrated. And with some, it looks so nasty, right? Where they look like they're going to hurt the other thing. But the moment that door opens, they're like, oh, yeah.
Well, you talked about in past shows, you've got the dog that wants to tear your fence down.
Yeah.
Because there's a squirrel over there.
Mm-hmm.
Does it really want the squirrels, or just frustrated at that fence?
Yeah, right. Exactly. So that is a lot of times, which is something to keep in mind, because when we do introductions, a lot of times we use a fence or a door, some sort of barrier to allow them to sniff each other and get acquainted with each other. And sometimes it's a great thing to have, but sometimes it's not, because some dogs will see the fence and go, oh, now I'm even more frustrated. And so it'll quickly give you the impression that, oh, this dog is not good with dogs, or that dog is not good with cats, etc. But it might be that the fence is just causing that.
Gotcha.
Now, that's not to say that that's always the case, because I don't want people to think, oh, well, my dog is probably fine if I just take the fence off. No, the dog might in fact be very bad with the other animal, but sometimes that's what it is. Sometimes it's the fence.
Yeah, we've had some fosters coming through the fence through here with our yard birds, ducks, and they can go out. We have that big area you saw. We try to encourage to get them 2 or 3 times a day to run and just get some energy out. We can have our birds out there, and it's nothing. And we can have some that, no, I can only do these early in the morning, or I can only do these, run them early in the morning before I let everything out, or same thing in the evening after they've been put up. They cannot coexist. We've got a lot more work to do. May have to put some cayenne pepper on those chickens.
Yeah.
On that. Well, let me ask you this: how important is it to? And you don't always get this option, because when you're introducing a new pet, it can be an older pet versus a younger one. But how important is the early socialization when you're training a dog in a multi-species environment?
Big time. I mean, it's huge. So the fact that, for instance, we're going to use this litter as an example. So the fact that these guys got exposed to a donkey, goats, cats, chickens, ducks, other dogs, that really gives them a huge advantage, because what happened was, and I've mentioned this in a couple of episodes, the first 20 weeks of their lives, it's such an important window. So yeah, their temperament is like their blueprint. This is how they come in. It's their unique personality, so to speak. But nature gives us like 16 to 20 weeks, where with dogs, people have, I think, 7 years. With humans, like the first 7 years for humans. For other species, I don't know. But for dogs, it's the first 16 to 20 weeks. 20 weeks in larger breeds, 16 weeks for most of the other breeds. So the first 16 weeks, it's like this window of time where if they get exposed to different things later in life, it's less likely to become a major factor in their temperament. So to answer your question, yeah, it is super important. So if I get a young dog and my plan is to possibly have this dog live in a farm or be around other species, then my priority will be to, as best as I can, in as a controlled environment as I can, to expose them to many different animals as much as I can. And you'll see it'll make a huge difference.
I know when we're bringing something new into our environment on the way to the house, we're a lot of times already discussing the introduction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As we're getting out of the car, what are the next steps that need to happen to basically set it up for success? Because the more that we get that set up for success, the better our lives are.
Yeah, seriously. But no, it is huge. So the earlier and the more diverse the exposure to different things, the better off they are.
Can you discuss any common misconceptions people have about dogs and other animals living together in the same household?
So misconceptions, here's the thing with, how you've heard that myths are myths, but every myth has some sort of root in partial reality. It's kind of like that. So one of the myths or one of the misconceptions is that dogs don't like cats, right? That's one that we've grown up.
I was a believer in.
Yeah, we've grown up like that. Like, oh, cats and dogs hate each other, and I think the more and more dogs become part of our lives as a society, the more we realize that that's not the case necessarily. But there's still that stigma that dogs should not be around cats, or other dogs, or other animals even. Certainly that is a misconception, as we've discussed today, that can be achieved. But the thing that I will say is this, okay? So this is a bit of, not a contradiction, but just something to keep people aware. Just because a dog is okay with chickens, and it's fine living with chickens, and it's fine living with a bunch of cats, it doesn't mean that it will not, at some point in the future, think or act in a violent manner towards a cat or a chicken. You know what I mean? It can happen. It was one of the things we don't do is we never put that past an animal. They're unpredictable. They're still animals. Now, domestic animals are more predictable, but still, they're animals. So I would say the biggest misconception is that dogs and cats and other species can coexist. That is a misconception. They can. But never lose sight of the fact that they're still animals and they might still act on impulse at some point. Okay? Just like dogs and dogs. I mean, I've had clients that have dogs live together for years, and then one day they fought over something, and after that, they couldn't get along anymore. So it does happen.
Are there specific breeds of dogs that tend to do better or worse in homes with multi-species?
That's a really good one. So dogs that tend to be breeds that tend to do better with other species. Generally speaking, again, it's been very general. Okay, generally speaking, your like bird dogs, you need to have a little bit of caution depending on the breeding of the bird dog. When I say bird dogs, I'm talking about labs,
right?
Retriever type dogs. Labs, GSP, so German Shorthair Pointers, just bird dogs like that. They're generally because they were bred for that. You have to take a little bit of extra precaution, a little bit of extra time when introducing them to birds. On the other hand, like the predatory dogs, like the like the herding breeds, the like the scent hounds, the sight hounds. So like like coon dogs, like the I'm blanking out on some of the sight hounds now. The racing dogs, I'm talking greyhounds. Thank you. The greyhounds, the Italian hounds, right? You want to take a little bit of extra time, maybe have a little bit of extra precaution with smaller animals like your cats and stuff like that. But it's still doable, still very possible. You just have to be aware, okay, what was this breed bred for? It was bred to be a bird retrieving dog? Okay. They can still get along with birds, you just have to maybe take a little bit of extra precaution. What was this dog bred for? What was this group of dogs bred for? It was bred to chase small animals. Okay, that means we need to take a little bit of extra precaution with the with the smaller animals, like with the cats and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So those would be the considerations that I would have with in regards to what breeds would get along better with certain dogs.
So like when we take a new foster, and first thing you do is like, okay, how accurate is the breed? And, and then at that point you assume, okay, we're going to rule out this is a full blood, and we're going to say there's a mix, several mixes in here.
Oh yeah,
way. And as great as everything's going, we have to still go with abundance of caution, and basically almost observe and document everything we witness to help the next person who gets the animal to have we set up for success.
Yeah.
I mean, there's point blank we've said, hey, you have chickens?
Yeah.
Do not.
Don't even
Don't
go
look
there.
at this dog.
Yeah. Don't look at this dog. Because I don't want to hear that my chicken flew in over the fence and into the area, and then you're upset that the dog.
Yeah, and now you.
It's like we've lost a few chickens and ducks, and it's at no fault of the dog. It just was issues that we've had to address at our house because we had open range, and we had this, we had that, and I've got one of our dogs right now. This is our personal dog. I can open the gate and it will stay if I tell it to stay. And then if it sees some squirrels on the other end, I can open the gate and it can be through that gate before I know it. And
if
I'm
you
dealing with a dog I didn't want in an area, which could be within an environment I didn't want the dog in.
If you can set up the dog for success ahead of time, then absolutely. There's no need to put them in situations that we know are more likely for them to fail.
Not to plug your e-collars, but man, there's been a few occasions where I wish there was an e-collar.
I'm telling you.
Right now.
It's a lifesaver.
Because,
literally is.
Well, like in Hank's situation, they were telling us how they've had like one or two spots where they needed his attention, and they needed him to basically reset real quick.
Yeah.
And we joked with Gary and Kara. Kara likes to wear that thing around her neck, and I'm like, Gary, be careful when you wake up in the morning. She has to put that around that collar around your neck.
Actually, one of my dogs was really, because I was talking about the cat. One of my dogs was like almost obsessed with my cat, and he was like, I am gonna get that thing, and the way that I was able to get on top of the exposure, because he was determined, he was like, no, I'm gonna get that cat, right? So on top of the exposure, one of the things that I had to do to create a little bit more predictability than I had was to use the electronic collar and go, that cat has powers that you don't want to mess with. So the dog eventually, I mean, he's a very intense dog too, so it took some repetitions for the dog to finally go, okay, this dog is magic. I mean, this cat is magic. This cat is spicy. I don't even want to mess with it. And I've worked with clients that is the only way that I was able to get their dogs to be okay with their cats, is to let them know, okay, we did the exposure. We need a little bit of this extra, leverage, this extra tool to help really convey the message to the dog that don't want to think bad things about the cat, because the cat has invisible powers that you just can't deal with. And that alone just makes the situation way, way better.
To wrap this up, I mean, every week, it wasn't just last week, but every week you talk about repetitions.
Mm-hmm.
You got to put the reps in. And you say
Yeah.
there's a lot of times people bring you an animal for training because they don't have the time
Exactly.
to put the reps in needed. I found ourselves last week, whether it was Saturday, getting reps of hugs for the puppies with other people.
Yeah.
They didn't know it, but they're giving reps
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah.
I mean, it was working now.
And
I
helps.
already have a dog, or I don't. I just like the. I would say like, all I want. We're socializing. We just need you to hug.
You just
give
need-
give a little hug,
Just touch them.
and we're getting those reps in. When we were approaching the time change
Uh-huh.
and stuff, and this sort of thing, I was like, okay, you need to get out. You need to get some running going with this dog we have
Mhm.
taken in. We need to get this, and so what I'm learning with this one dog that we have since you showed up Wednesday, it's so excited to see me.
Mm-hmm.
It gently wants to kind of jump up, but it's a medium-sized dog and
Mm-hmm.
wants to jump up, and it's like I can get it love. Well, it's like okay, well, no, down. Start working this whole thing and realize I can't do this just one. Got to keep
Yeah.
routine going down.
Yeah.
Reward it when it's down.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't reward it when it's jumping up. 'Cause
Exactly.
I want it to be better for the next person.
Exactly.
But I'm like, damn it, Williams got me out here doing repetitions on myself out here.
Yeah.
But it helps. I mean, I could tell last night, starting to see
Yeah.
a behavior change.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes repetitions.
It's not perfect, but it's better than what it was a week ago. Because when we have people come over to volunteer to help, I don't want the dogs jumping up on them.
Exactly.
Because not everybody does welcome that. So last thing here, I know there's everybody would like to think there's a one-size-fits-all approach
Mm-hmm.
in bringing a dog to a multi-species environment.
Mm-hmm.
And the dog, whether you have chickens or whatever else you're trying to bring in here with the cat. Does the training differ when you're teaching a dog to interact with a cat versus a rabbit or a bird?
Does it differ? Does the trainer differ from species to species when we're doing the introduction?
Yes.
I would say, depending on that individual, it might. It all depends on the individual. So, a hypothetical individual, let's call him Fido. Fido might have been around cats before. Maybe he's never been around rabbits. Well, now you have to work on the rabbits a little bit more. You have to be a little bit more cautious of the rabbits. You may or may not have to take a little bit longer for the exposure. May or may not have to use the aid of an electronic collar. So depending on how Fido does. If you have Rex, and let's say Rex kind of grew up in a farm, well, maybe Rex has been fine around a farm, but maybe now he sees kind of an exotic pet, right? Gets adopted, and maybe the person has more of an exotic. Maybe it is a parakeet. Maybe it is, like a reptile or something. Well, now Rex has never seen a reptile that close, right? Maybe he has never seen a parakeet or whatever else that would be of an exotic nature. Well, now we have to take a little bit of extra time with Rex. So it boils down to how that individual or what that individual gives you at that moment is where you have to customize.
Okay. And you're talking about the individual kind of here at the beginning, I could see that the body language from the person trying to do this introduction, whether you or I, could play a big part into this too.
It could.
If you're like, Idol's coming on in 15 minutes, we need to speed this up.
Oh yeah, no, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, it's not.
You don't want to rush it. No, you want to have confidence, which I know it's hard to do because you're like, oh my God, I hope. If your goal is not to introduce, if your goal is to introduce, you're going to be nervous. Every time I've seen people do dog-to-dog introductions or dog to other species introductions, they're nervous because you have to be. Because when your goal is to introduce, you're basically a referee. You know what I mean? But when your goal is to not introduce, your goal is to expose, there's much more control, there's no rush. So you're automatically more relaxed because you know you have time on your side. So even when you're doing that, yeah, you're more relaxed, but also you want to make sure that you are comfortable. If you're not comfortable, take a step back and go, maybe the introduction needs to be a little bit farther away. Or I'm sorry, the exposure needs to be a little bit farther away.
Let me ask you this then. So everybody likes to pull their phones out and take pictures and little videos of them, especially when it's all brand new. And it's probably not something you want to be doing when you're trying to do this introduction. Because you want to say that they're happy to see you, but they could be just happy to see that phone that's moving, that object that's moving all over, and that's why there's no civility happening whatsoever here.
Yeah.
Now, if other people using this phone also as an object here, a tool, if someone starts picking up, checking their text messages, emails, and
not gonna work.
Yeah, because I've noticed with your videos that I see with you, it's like I will see a duck in the background from periodically. I'll see your cat standing there walking by. Never see you with the phone.
Right. No.
You're not the one filming.
No, exactly. Exactly.
You've got someone else doing the filming.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's hard to pay attention to the phone and what's going on at the same time. You know what I mean? It's just...
Regina and I have been, we're like, okay, we've got to get some good pictures.
Yeah.
Of this. And, there is the occasion where, oh, wow.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah.
But it's almost to the point where we both have to tag team. Okay, you pay attention with the dog, and I've got the phone.
Yeah.
To get those pictures that we need quicker.
Yeah.